Dear ladies and gentlemen, today's short video is going to be slightly marked with a touch of philosophy. Well, quite honestly, I'm not too much in any philosophy, more in history and politics, but nevertheless. What provoked this video was one documentary that I watched yesterday about ancient Egypt, and to be more specific, about the so-called cylinders of pharaohs. You know what it is. Some of the statues of ancient Egyptian pharaohs have those weird little cylinders in both of their hands. And the authors of that documentary were trying to figure out what those cylinders were. They described different approaches to that, different concepts, and one of them was that those were magic cylinders, that supernatural cylinders that allowed the pharaohs to get in touch with supernatural forces. Well, as for me, I'm not prepared to deny that or to agree with that idea, with that concept. Why so? As a historian, in my capacity of a historian, I know pretty well that it is extremely hard to figure out what was really happening in our past. And to be quite honest with you, you have to waste maybe half of your life to figure out what really happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago. And if you go back to 3,500 years before Christ, oh, forget about that. Well, of course, you have to perform research, you have to try to find something out, but it's very, very hard. And probably nothing is unquestionable. Getting back to those cylinders. Believe it or not, but some 30 years ago in Germany, I met one old gentleman who claimed that he was a magician, and he was involved, by the way, in some non-medical healing projects and also in some exorcism. And he gave me a couple of those cylinders of Pharaoh as a gift. You know what? I have them somewhere here in my residence, but I tried to find them. I wanted to show them to you, but I failed. But you know what? You can find those cylinders on Amazon even. They are sold for, the starting price is probably 100, and some greedy businessman can sell you a couple for $1,000. And all that information, I mean the information about the cylinders of pharaohs in the past and about those cylinders of pharaohs that are sold on Amazon, provoked some interesting thoughts. A few ideas came into my mind, which I would like to share with you. Well, first and foremost, it's absolutely evident that our civilization is coming to an end. Well, it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. It will probably take decades, but clearly everything is falling apart and crumbling. And we know, probably all of us know, that our civilization is not the first one to crumble, and hopefully not the last one. But of course, there are centuries and centuries of ignorance and degradation in between different civilizations. I also probably agree that ancient Egypt was a relic of one of our previous civilizations. The reason why I believe that is that, as we can see from the result of many researches, ancient Egypt went through an explosive development, which was probably caused by some people who survived the collapse of the previous civilization and shared some knowledge with them. And God knows what were those cylinders of Pharaoh about. But getting back to the contemporary cylinders of Pharaoh, the following idea came to my mind. Can you imagine, 200 years from now, one of our great-grandchildren, who probably will be literate by that time, and probably would live without any electricity. Well, there will be some electricity, some primitive electric devices in the houses of those who will be grandchildren of those who are now playing games in Davos, but common people probably are not going to have any electric power 200 years from now. So, in the ruins of some building, our great-grandchild can find an old, probably broken monitor, computer monitor. And although illiterate, our descendant will probably know something about the legends the old people were chatting about, some computers, and how the damn were they calling them, monitors, through which our ancestors were connecting with the world. That's what our grandson or granddaughter will say to his or her bodies. So our descendant will say, yeah, I found that magic monitor, and it's right now in front of me, and believe it or not, I'm getting some information from other parts of the world. That reminds me of those new cylinders of Pharaoh. And now, let's go further, probably not 200, but 400 or 500 years from now. Our descendants will know nothing about the monitors anymore, but they will probably remember some legends. So some of them would probably create something reminding monitors and computers out of wood, and will also say, well, we reconstructed one magic device from our distant ancestors, and that magic device allows us to connect with God and other parts of the world. And probably some of them would collect money for sitting in front of that wooden monitor and making some movements and getting some energy. Maybe they will get some energy, you never know. And yeah, that's actually it. I don't want to sound negative, I just want to sound realistic. Don't you think it's interesting? Maybe yes, maybe no. If yes, then it was my pleasure. If no, I'm apologetic. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong here. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye-bye.